All good? Beautiful. Good morning, Kahal Kadosh. Today, Tuesday, the 11th of Adar 1, 5784, the 20th of February 2024. Today's class graciously sponsored by Yaakov Kobi Cohen for the Refuah Shelema of Dana Bat Tova among the Halim of Am Israel. Additionally, today's class sponsored by Eli and Rivka Levi Le'ilui Nishmat, his beloved father Yosef ben Sarah Alav Shalom. Additionally, we dedicate the class for the Refuah Shelema of Sipora Bat Marinel Leah Bat Sarah among the Halim of all of Am Israel. Amen. Today's Gemara, fascinating enough, brings a topic that we discussed in the early days of the Shovavim period. As we know, this week that we are in Perashat Tetzaveh is the final week of the Shovavim, the special time given to Am Israel, especially to the men's department, to be able to be metaken certain sins or shortcomings of our younger years. And one of the checklist, or item rather, on the checklist of the Moed Kol Hai is about the concept of raising orphans. So the Gemara today from Masechet Ketubot, it brings a very interesting pasuk. The pasuk writes, Ashrei Shomrei Mishpat Oseh Tzedakah Bechol Ed. Literally, a pasuk that says, fortunate is the one that keeps the rules and the laws of the Torah and fulfills continuously charity. So the Gemara actually splits this pasuk and discusses the topic of giving charity. And the Gemara asks a very obvious question. Is it possible that a person can give charity constantly? Every instant, it means an instant. Every instant, we give tzedakah, hopefully, a few times a day. Before prayer, during prayer, throughout the day, before mincha, during mincha, okay? Occasionally, the person may do a few extra mitzvot of tzedakah, but what does it mean that a person gives charity on a continuous basis?
Impossible.
Don't say impossible, because if the Torah, if the pasuk brings such a concept, it means that there is an opportunity and a possibility. Today, with the world of technology, you can be sleeping and give tzedakah. That's simple. Today, you are sleeping, I wake up in the morning and I see a credit card charge. True story. It happened to me yesterday. I said I didn't use a credit card, but then when I open, is the Synagogue. I have an auto pay.
After 12 p.m.
Right?
Sure.
And it comes.
Automatic.
That's beautiful. The Gemara brings a few options, but there is one particular. 1 second, please. Please remember the policy of the class. Thank you. The Gemara goes and brings different options in the answers, but there is one that I feel that we all are going to relate to it. Comes the Rabbi Shemuel Bar Nehmani, and it says, Se hamegadel yatom beyetoma betoch beto. This refers to someone that raises an orphan in their home. You adopt a child. You adopt a child not for the sake of adoption, because people adopt children. But usually, when does someone actually adopts a child?
When they can't have a child.
Hazak u'baruch. When biologically and physically they cannot have a child, so they resort on the concept of adoption. But as we discussed in the past, and adoption is not a simple procedure to do. It needs to have rabbinical guidance, because there is a lot of halachic criteria that must be met prior to the adoption and during the adoption. So if anybody is involved in this type of situation, make sure to check with your local rabbi to give you the proper guidelines of how to do it properly at all levels. The Gemara here is referring to that suddenly there is an unfortunate scenario that there are orphans, okay? Orphans, has v'shalom, and they need people to raise them. So the Gemara explains, and the Mefarshim explain in this particular concept, שתמיד בכל שעות והיום והלילה. It says they are living with you and the need functions constantly, daytime and nighttime. Why? Because since you adopted a child, even today in America, the wanting to adopt and having the money to adopt doesn't mean that you will be approved to become an adoptive parents. I know this because many years ago, I remember somebody was telling me how many scrutiny they had to go through in order to be approved legally to become an adoptive parent. First of all, you need to go through a psychological evaluation, making sure that the parents are normal and the child that the system will place in their care will not be in danger. Then they need to see the living environment, the house, the apartment, affordability, all the space, all this enyanim. Sure. All these matters are being taken into consideration until the person is approved to be able legally to adopt a child. Besides the legal cost, there is a cost involved in it. Sure. But, of course, big time. Sure. You gotta pay the attorneys. Sometimes you gotta pay the mother that wants to give up the child because she's not interested in raising the child. There's a lot of legal matters. I hope you don't have to resort to that. Okay? Okay, but if somebody needs to, you need to understand what does it mean. So, and I say that this particular Gemara is referring on the adoption of Yehudim orphans. Let's say, God forbid, that there is a tragedy. Correct?
October 7th.
Right? October 7th. Excellent point. That's a sample something that we can relate to. Do you know how many widows became widows in October 7th? How many orphans became orphans on October 7th and after? As the weeks and months are going by, and we hope and pray that Be'ezat Hashem, all the hostages will be released. But we don't really know. We don't really know the reality unless you are involved. So it goes further, the Gemara, and it says, you took care of them at all levels. You provide for them. You gave them room and board. You feed them. You dress them. You take care of them at all matters, and every step of the way, everything that you do for them is considered the mitzvah of tzedakah. Why? Because they are not your children, your biological children, that you feel the obligation and the responsibility and the love to take care of them. You understand? Now you left your comfort zone and suddenly you brought into your home a child that is not yours, is an orphan, God forbid. And the Gemara goes, umasiyan. You take care of them till they get married. You raise them, you provide for them, you take care of them. The Gemara says, every action. You went to a restaurant? Tzedakah. You went to Disney World? Tzedakah. You came to Miami for winter break? tzedakah.
24/7 tzedakah.
Schools for sure,
Everything tzedakah. Stay home tzedakah also.
because you are taking care of them.
24/7
That's the beauty of the Gemara. Okay? That's the beauty of the Gemara. You're going above and beyond the concept of charity. And that's why the charity that the Gemara is discussing today is a whole different level of the concept of us give charity to the kuppah or to a specific needy bride or an orphan, one-time help, etc. Comes the Gemara and it says, later please,
Okay.
there comes a Gemara and it says, Hon va'osher bebeto, wealth and richness is found in your home. Besitkato omedet la'ad, and your righteousness remains forever. Again, the Gemara brings another concept. You find wealth in your home, and your righteousness remains for you forever. Is it guaranteed that any home you're going to go, you're going to find wealth? No. Is it guaranteed that righteousness remains forever? In our mindset, righteousness, it's limited. I do a mitzvah, I do an act of chesed, I'll finish it, next. But here it says that it has a lingering effect. What is this case? Gemara brings different scenarios. I'll tell you one. The first one from the many. And not only that, it says that in this particular pasuk, we're going to learn how can a person do the mitzvah of tzedakah one time and still has an effect for eternity. It's a great deal. Usually, mitzvot have a limited lifespan, with the exception of one. And the Gemara explains which one. Ze alomed Torah umlameda. It says as follows: a person who learns Torah and teaches the Torah. Now, what has to do the concept of tzedakah and learning Torah and teaching Torah? So if tzedakah means providing the needs of the person, teaching Torah is providing the spiritual needs of the neshama. You follow me so far? So by teaching, we are giving tzedakah to the student. No physical or financial tzedakah that is limited. Let's say somebody gives tzedakah. How much you give? $1, $5, $1,000, $10,000, $100,000? There is a cap. In the teaching of Torah, says the Gemara, there is no cap. Huh?
Teachers, they benefit.
Of course, the teacher benefits from teaching. So it says here that when we teach Torah, let's say that I give tzedakah now. That means if my pocket I have at this moment $16.
You need a refill right now.
Yeah, that's from the front pocket. Not from the back pocket.
Right. Shows
The
the
front
lower
pocket.
numbers in the
Tzedakah
front.
pocket.
The big
This is
ones.
the tzedakah pocket. Okay, let's say a person now gives tzedakah. So now I had $16. Let's say I'm giving now $1 in tzedakah. I'm going to fulfill now the mitzvah of giving tzedakah. Alright? So now how much money I have now?
15.
You good mathematician. Hazaku Baruch. So now I have 15. That means that I did something, a mitzvah, but the balance went down. Okay, Hazaku Baruch. You see when the Mishnah writes, mitzvah, whatever mitzvah, Hazaku Baruch. Thank you. Beautiful. So guess what? I did a mitzvah, I had $16 balance, Now went down to 15. So far, so good. But what about teaching Torah? The balance does not go down. That's why, to a certain extent, the Torah is connected to fire instead of water. Because when I take a cup of water, let's say, and I'm going to split it between all of us, by the end of the round, this cup will be empty. But if I have a candle with fire, and 100 people come and take fire from it, the fire remains the same. You like it? Thank you. And that's exactly what the Gemara writes. That when we teach Torah, don't think that because my words are coming out, so my balance of Torah knowledge decreases. The opposite. I gain and you gain. And when you teach it to your children or to others, everybody is a winner. So maybe I taught something to you, and I close the book, and continue with my day. But in your case, in the recipient's case, in the student's case, suddenly it changed their life. Because they became aware of something that were not aware before, and now they're doing it. Guess what? Every time somebody does something because they were taught by someone else, the teacher or the friend, let's say you say to a friend, you know what? Today, you have so many kosher restaurants available. Don't go to a non-kosher restaurant, God forbid. But I'm only bringing a simple example. You made one time a statement. He listened because now he knows that there are options. Every time he goes to a kosher restaurant, it's your mitzvah. You're working, you are traveling, you even forgot that you gave such an advance. Suddenly you see a direct deposit into your account. Wire transfer of mitzvot. Where this is from? Oh, remember one day in the year 2019, you spoke to somebody in Aventura Mall and you told them where the kosher restaurants are. Because of you, he's changing. It's a great deal. Goes further the Gemara. Hadamar, second opinion, says, a person that writes Sifrei Torah, Nevi'im, Ketubim, and lets other to use it. In the olden days, they didn't have this concept that every person has their own book, every person has their own Chumash, every person has their own Siddur, every person has their own Gemara. There was a time in history that every written form of Torah, other was memorized, other you had parchments. Okay, imagine a person goes up to the Sefer Torah and it says, what would you like to donate to the shul? Okay, I'd like to give 5 scrolls of Tehillim. Now, how long does a parchment last?
Very long.
A very, very long time. That means that I can have a piece of parchment, Tehillim, thousands of people can read from it, and the parchment will remain the parchment. Obviously, if you're going to start touching it with oil, with wet fingers, you're going to start kissing it, you're going to decay the paint and affect the parchment. But let's say that you are normal. Okay? You read it. I finish reading it, he's going to read it. How many times did you do this mitzvah? One time. But every time that somebody uses it, it's your zechut. And that's why many times people donate books to the synagogues, to the yeshivot, to the kolelim. Why? Because they are aware of this Gemara. every time somebody uses it, and you were the one who dedicated that Sefer or that Kaddish or that Beracha Haruna, whatever that means, they are in Venezuela and they are in Mexico and they get a wire transfer every time somebody uses it. Unbelievable concept of the Gemara. Comes the Gemara and it says, Ur'e banim levanecha shalom al Yisrael. זה השיר שלך? He is the composer of this song, by the way. Ur'e banim levanecha.
I never recognized it.
It's a very old song.
Okay, he's the one that composed it.
God bless you.
Get his autograph afterwards.
I don't get autographs.
No, okay, maybe you give him yours.
That I could do.
Yes. Okay, so what's the meaning of this verse? Ur'e banim levanecha, and may your sons, banim, your grandchildren, peace upon the Jewish people. Ask the Gemara, what has to do the concept of having a grandson, a grandchild, and peace? So the Gemara explains, Amar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi, Kevan shebanim levanecha. Now that a person has a grandchild, Shalom al Israel, there will be more peace in the Jewish people. Why? Deloate halitza be'ibum. Because if a couple is married and they have a child, if God forbid the husband has an early departure from the world, the wife, the widow, doesn't have to fulfill the mitzvah of ibum, which means marrying her brother-in-law. There is such halacha. Husband and wife are married. If God forbid the husband left the world prematurely, and there is a brother to the husband, he has priority to marry his sister-in-law in order to be able to bring a child to the neshama of the brother. And what happens if for some reason they don't want to get married? Then there is second step, it's called halisa, the whole procedure with the shoe, etc. So if there is a grandchild, automatically the topic of ibum or halitza bichlal is not discussed. Once that topic is out of the table, there is nothing to talk about, automatically this brings peace among the Jewish people. Can you imagine if suddenly they finish the Shiva, they finish the 30 days, because the spousal avelut is 30 days only. Okay, you ready for it? Boom. And she says, with him? Never. And that's when you start the mahloket. But once there is a grandchild, automatically it removes that fear.
No, you won't.
No ibum. Rabbi Shemuel bar Nehmani amar, כיוון שבנים לבניך, שלום על דייני ישראל, דלעתו דאנסויה. It says very simple, because now there are grandchildren, it minimizes the fighting for the inheritance. Because a son that has a son, in other words, a grandfather that has a grandson, the grandson takes priorities over strangers. But let's say that the son leaves the world and did not leave anyone behind. Suddenly cousins and second cousins and uncles and aunts and nieces, they said, I'm priority one. I'm priority one. I took care of him. I gave him a ride to the supermarket the other day. Now that there is a grandson, he has priority over all the other second or third level of relatives. So this brings also peace among the Bete Dinim, the way it says, כשאין לאדם בנים נופלת מריבה בין הקרובים. It says that when God forbid there is no continuity to a person's life. Let's say God forbid a person left the world single, and the person left behind properties, business, cars, bank accounts. Who has priority on that money? Hazak Baruch.
The government.
That's why you need to do your paperwork in advance. The government, if there is no setup, automatically the government has some type of power. I'm not very familiar with the laws. Yeah, I know that, but I know all the details. But bottom line, if there is a document and everything is earmarked in advance, then a will, of course, it mitigates and removes. But forget about the way that the law of the land is today. Back then, before this law was enacted, okay? So there was not even such a thing as trust. Suddenly the person appears to the Bedin and makes a claim. I'm his first cousin. But I'm his uncle. No, but I'm his best friend. Everybody has a reason.
So tax priority.
So that's the Gemara writes that the Bedin has a headache. They don't know, okay, you're the cousin, okay, you're the cousin. You're the uncle, yeah, but you're the best friend. How many times a week did you see him? Oh, once a year. And how many times did you see him? No, 3 years ago. And how often did you see your friend? Once a month. You understand all the questions that may come around? What did you do for him? Tell me something about him. But once there is a grandson, meaning there is a dynasty, there is a lineage, that's a proper word, I believe. So then it minimizes a lot of the drama that wills, God forbid, can bring upon families. Which I take the opportunity to say, do your homework in advance. Don't wait till the day after, because that is problematic in so many ways. The day after means that, God forbid, the person say goodbye to this world, and now the whole mishpacha is fighting. You're logically encouraged, actually, to do all your work in advance. All the halachic living wills, all the halachic testaments, last will and testament, all that is good. And the Bedin helps today in order to do it in a more respectful and suitable fashion. Very clear Gemara of today. We go an extra few minutes. We started earlier than usual today, so I'll give you an early release time. So the Gemara, Masechet Holin. Continuations of yesterday's topic. Yesterday's topic, for those that were here in the class, the Gemara quoted several Hachamim that merited longevity and preservation of their remains after they left the world. And each one of them, from Gemara, Rosh Hashanah, Chulin, Shabbat, including Ta'anit, they all share the similar perspective. No envy, no jealousy, being easygoing personality, and just learning how to ignore. And we all agree that it's not automatically that it happens. The person must invest in their own personality. Like we invest in real estate, we invest in money, we invest in our lives, we need to invest in our neshama. Comes the Gemara, and it brings a very interesting statement from Masechet Hulin. The Gemara in Hulin says, the world is alive. I'm not sure if the world is alive and well. The world is alive with a lot of hiccups, with a lot of headaches, with a lot of challenges. We heard what happened yesterday in Brazil, right? When the government, the president made a very derogatory statement about Israel, comparing them to the Nazis, or whatever is going on. But doesn't surprise us because that president is problematic to begin with. And I believe that the Brazilian audience will agree to my statement because of history. But the Israeli reaction was basically that he was declared a non-grata person, a non-welcome citizen into Israel, and the statement was made publicly. in front of the Brazilian ambassador of Brazil in Israel. And probably he was sent back home to deal with the matter in person. Very problematic, and we hope and pray that this does not bring any headaches to the wonderful Jewish community in São Paulo, Brazil. What was the source of the headache? Not the thought of the Brazilian president, but what he said. The statement that he said. If he would have said, we are not happy of what's going on in Israel, Hazako Baruch, we are not happy neither. But the moment that he started to make comparisons and saying, God forbid, that the Jewish people, the Jewish army, are acting like the Nazis, that is bichlal, a very derogatory and insulting statement. Not only, Haz v'shalom, how do you stab against the Jewish people by mentioning their name, but actually, even Israel is sending messages to the citizens. Leave, we're going to send a missile, we're looking for this, In other words, Israel is a more rahamim type of army that exists in the world. Not minimizing anyone else, but we know the reality. Now comes the Gemara and it says, אין העולם מתקיים אלא במי שבולם פיו בשעת מריבה. The Gemara writes, you want to sponsor the existence of the world of today? Let's say somebody wants to sponsor a class. Like we have sponsored, Chazak Baruch, Rabbi, I like to sponsor the class. Can you imagine for a minute you like to sponsor the world? And I'm not saying that the Torah class is not equally great as the world, but let's be realistic. How can I sponsor the world for one day? How much is going to cost me?
Nothing.
You can't.
Zero. There is no need to put a number.
180.
No, you're saying there is no number because it's impossible, and I don't disagree with you. But if we listen to the Gemara, cost involved of how much does it cost me to sponsor the world, the Gemara's answer is zero. You don't need money to sponsor the world. So then how do you sponsor the world? It says very simple. In the moment of argument, stay quiet. That's it. אין העולם מתקיים. The world does not exist, but on the merit of the person that closes the mouth in the moment of argument. There is an argument going on. The person says something to us. I have two options. Answer back and create mahloket, or stay quiet. And the Gemara writes, Pasuk in Iyov, Tole eres al belima. The world stands on the one who shuts the mouth. Rabbi Yadu Omer, al mi shemasim atzmo kemi she'eno. The merit of the person that does not consider himself to be something. Now, what does it mean? Let's say somebody talks to us in a derogatory way. It enters one ear, it leaves from the other. Doesn't affect me. It slides from me. It leaves me. And the Gemara goes bringing different examples, and the Gemara writes a very interesting statement from Masechet Shabbat. The Gemara writes, "Hane'elavim be'enan olbin." A person that is insulted. Ne'elav means insulted or mistreated verbally. Be'enan olbin, and they don't reciprocate. Because this is what the Yetzer Hara wants. The Yetzer Hara triggers someone to say something to us. And then I have a few options. Do I answer back or I stay quiet? If I answer back, I may appear that I'm not afraid. But if I answer back, I'm just trying to extinguish a fire with gasoline. I'm creating a bigger מחלוקת. שומעים חרפתם ואינם משיבים. They listen how they are talked to and they don't answer back. Now, we need to be careful in this particular Gemara that we should not misunderstand that the Gemara is telling us, go ahead, insult someone because that person will not answer back. We already mentioned the other day that this should never happen. But let's say that it happens. So it says, Be'ohavav, pasuk from Shoftim. And it says, the Shoftim after Yoshua. Be'ohavav, the love that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has, keset HaShemesh bipurato. Like the sun shines on the peak. What does it mean? And it says as follows. And it says, the sun comes out every day. Sunrise, sunset. You know the song? Yeah. Sunrise, sunset.
On the roof.
Okay, Hazako Baruch. Very good. So we have sunrise. But why the Torah or the Gemara says Hashem loves the person that does not answer like the sun shines in the morning? What has to do the sun shining with not reacting? Short answer. Remember in the beginning of the creation of the world, the moon came with a claim to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. What was the claim? The moon says, אי אפשר לשני מלכים בכתר אחד. It's impossible that two kings will share the same crown. Why? Because in the beginning of creation, the sun and the moon were exactly the same size. Now, what is the hidush of this pasuk? The Tosafot in Gemara Shabbat explains that you know why talks about the sun when the person does not answer back? Because the sun, when the moon made the claim to Hashem, the sun stayed quiet and let God handle it. He did not get involved. The sun could have said to the moon, relax, I'm here before you. Welcome. Welcome. But the sun stayed quiet. The Gemara says, like the sun was able to stay quiet and Hashem rewarded the sun. What was the reward of the sun? That the moon is dependent on the sun. And the moon was shrunk. And that's why they cannot be together. If it's sunny here, it's dark elsewhere. If it's sunny elsewhere, it's dark here. Very interesting Gemara. באמר אליהו הנביא זכור לטוב, לעולם הווה עלוב לפני אדם, בלפני ביתך יותר מכולם. It says, forever, don't be the one that insults. Rather be the one that is insulted, but especially to your family, to your wife and children. What does this mean? Let's clarify that here no one is having the permission to mistreat people. Okay? Because the Gemara says, forever be the victim and don't lower yourself to their level. God forbid that the Gemara is allowing or promoting verbal abuse. God forbid. We already mentioned the Gemara in Baba Messiah a while back. God forbid. But let's say that there is a person that is not polished as a person. It's not polished. Remember yesterday we spoke about polishing. Marriage helps the person to polish their personality. So let's say that a person is rough And when they talk, they don't think. And when they talk, they don't care. They don't put a filter. They don't put a stop sign. They don't put brakes. They just talk because talk is cheap.
Haki balai.
I will tell you one thing. If there is something that is not cheap and not free, is talk. Because it can cause damages with, God forbid, may take a long time to repair. Especially of emotional nature. So the Gemara writes, to preserve your home, minimize argument, minimize fighting. Sometimes husband and wife have an argument, but it's a ping pong. He said, she said. He said, she said. You know, ping pong, ping pong, ping pong. You play ping pong ever? Okay? So what happens? It comes to a point that someone is going to explode. And when that explosion of anger, Chas v'shalom, hits the home, it's not that simple. Comes the Gemara and it says, לעולם אין התורה מתפרשת אלא במי שאינו קפדן, ואין אני מתגלה אלא למי שאינו קפדן. Eliyahu Navi says, you want me to pay you a visit? I'm willing to pay you a visit. But I have one question to ask you. How is your personality? If you're a kafdan, kafdan, as I mentioned before, means someone that is exacting. It's very meticulous, very precise, and that means that the more that person becomes that way, the more difficult is for the surroundings of the person. Why? Because anything becomes a big deal. Anything becomes a problem. Something is not this way is an issue. Something is that way, yani, the only acceptable way of thinking is perfection. And if it's not perfect, it's wrong. And that's a problem. The only perfect is God and the Torah. Humans are not perfect. I'm not insulting anyone, I hope. But we are here to become better. That's part of our mission in life. To remain the same person that came into the world and live the same way, unless you are a super tzaddik and a super nice person, change is required. And therefore it says, Torah becomes clear for those that have this beautiful personality. Eliyahu Navi says, I'm only revealing myself for those that are good, decent, easygoing people. It says, fortunate is the person that is able to recognize basically the need to change. And the person understands that every step of our life we are with HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bezocher, and the person remembers that HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives us health and the opportunity to live by the Torah and to learn the Torah. In Keno Ose, if the person functions in this way, meaning to say, the person knows the need to change, and the person develops a great connection with HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Vadai ahuv lemala benehmad lemata va'ashem imo. Guaranteed that HaKadosh Baruch Hu loves this person, guaranteed that people are happy in the sense of they like this person. You know why they like this person? Because he's a nice person. Easygoing, calmado, nice. And what's the ultimate blessing? Betamid Hashem imo. God says, can I be your friend? Who wants to hang around with someone that gets upset or has a tough personality? and for every situation is a drama.
Mr. Mahlok.
I'll be the first one to say, tell me where that person is, so I don't come 100 feet around them. Because this kind of personality, God forbid, displays and projects also negativity. And you know me already. I don't function well with that type of personality. I don't, behemet.
What do you do, Rabbi?
I pray for them. That's one thing that you can do.
Okay.
One thing that we can do for those type of individuals, because at the end of the day, and I deal with people, perhaps more than the average person. It comes with the territory. That's it. You may deal with people in a business level. That's a whole different ballgame than dealing with a person on the rabbinical level, on a personal level, or an emotional level. And sometimes you feel bad for these people. I said, Ribono Shel Olam, why can't you be normal? Why can't you be calm? You have, obviously, each person has its own nisyonot. God forbid, we're not minimizing anyone. But part of the solution and the aim for self-improvement is, as he mentioned towards the end, is recognizing the need to change. Because once the person recognizes, I need to be better for my marriage, I need to be better for my children, B'ezrat Hashem, so then the person will change. But if a person doesn't care, so what kind of marriage is this person having? What, he has Gog uMagog in his home every day? What kind of Shalom Bayit can the person expect? What kind of relationship with the children the person can have? Has v'shalom.
Divorce.
Even if it doesn't end up divorcing, because sometimes to get divorced, people think twice, because they understand all the side effects that could come into the person's life at all levels. I'm not even talking about embarrassing, but hurting the kids' lives, hurting themselves, financial situations, stigma in the community. We don't understand. Again, we don't understand, and we hope and pray that we'll never understand. But as someone, as I said before, that deals with scenarios, believe me, getting divorced is not pashut. And the drama that follows divorce is also not pashut, not simple. Obviously, there are certain scenarios that divorce is the only option available. That's why the Torah writes the concept of divorce. If the Torah will not agree that there are scenarios in life that a divorce is the only option, the Torah will have not put it as part of the 613 commandments. But there is no mitzvah to get divorced. It's a mitzvah to give the get. Don't be mahmir now.
Obligation.
And he says, I'm going to get divorced,
Not
has v'shalom, to remarry and fulfill 2 mitzvot of the Torah. That's called hasid shoteh. That's called hasid shoteh. That's called a pious fool. In other words, don't be a hero. Our goal is to preserve the sanctity of marriage, not only on the spiritual department, because I know people that, and what I'm saying now is some professional experience, that spiritually they are very good, but emotionally they are a disaster. When I say emotionally means the way they interact with people, with wives, with children, with friends, certain attitudes that becomes very challenging, very difficult. And that's basically what the Gemara writes. How many times we see in the news or you hear something called road rage. What does that mean? Good morning. Probably he can give us a class on that topic.
The guy lost his school.
Right? Right. Just for the audience, I'm talking not about a member of the synagogue, of teaching us road rage. We have a wonderful, we keep it for security reasons, a law enforcement professional joining us in the class today. And he can tell you probably how many crazy things happened because of rage. Rage is what? Is a branch of gas. It's a branch of anger.
Loss of control.
That's it. You lose control. For what? And that's the message of today. Be calm. Be thoughtful. Don't be shy in the sense of if you need to stay quiet and that will diffuse the situation, you are the hero. You saved the day. But according to the Talmud of today, you saved the world. The world. You know why? Because each person is the world.
Their own world.
Each person is their own world. Whatever continent you want to call it. We call you America, we call you Oceania, we call you Africa, doesn't matter. You are the world. You are your own world. So we are able to diffuse the drama and the tension between people. God says, I like you. Okay, my good friends? Okay, we'll be back for the Spanish class at 11 o'clock. ברוך אדוני לעולם. אמן ואמן. רבי חנניה בן הקשיא אומר